All right, let's go ahead and look at some classifications of primates. Now, the purpose of this lecture is going to be one, to go over the anatomical features that classify primates under one order or one suborder versus another. And the second one is to make you aware of some definitions by using specific primate examples. So let's go ahead and start. Your book already talks about gradistic versus cladistic. So using DNA to classify organisms versus using anatomical features. And here we see actually a different terminology being used for gradistic versus cladistic, where here you see prosimians and anthropoids. So we are going to be looking at cladistic classification, where you see strepsirrhines versus haplorhines. And here, strepsirrhines and haplorhines is what we're going to be using for this class. So let's go ahead and look at strepsirrhines. What anatomical features do strepsirrhines all share? Well, you should see this in your book. All strepsirrhines have a tapetum lucidum, which is the ability, this reflective quality of the eyes and ability to be able to see in the night really well. Your cats and dogs also have a tapetum lucidum where you see it, that reflection, that creepy reflection at nighttime, that's their tapetum lucidum. Strepsirrhines also have a rhinarium. Now, I know we mentioned that primates do not have a rhinarium, but strepsirrhines are more primitive and have more ancestral traits, so we do see this wet nose and wet snout on a strepsirrhine, although they are still classified as a primate. Along with a rhinarium, we also see a long snout, we see a postorbital bar, and tooth comb as well as a grooming claw, and strepsirrhines are generally have smaller to brain to body size ratio. They are generally less intelligent than other primates. So here's an example of this long snout, this rhinarium at the end. Again, looking at skeletal example, we have this long snout and this rhinarium, where well, this rhinarium would go, as well as this postorbital bar. Now here I want to bring your attention to something that's going to separate strepsirrhines versus haplorhines, where we're going to discuss in a little bit. This postorbital bar, you guys see this little space back here? This is going to be a little bit different than haplorhines, where we're going to see a postorbital closure, where it's completely closed off. So strepsirrhines, they have this bony protection, but it's open back here. There's a space. You can stick your finger all the way through it. All right, let's go ahead and look at lemurs really quick as far as strepsirrhines. And again, I'm going to example a couple of lemurs in order to uh, help you with some definitions. So lemurs are endemic to Madagascar. They're only found in Madagascar. And here we see several different species in what we call sympatric speciation. Sympatric speciation is where we see species occupying the same environment and same niche, very similar to each other. However, we still see some speciation happening where different behavioral traits, slight different variations in anatomy have allowed them to become more dominant in one particular niche within the same environment. All right, want to talk about the ring-tailed lemur? Not because a ring-tailed lemur is something you're going to have to memorize, but I want to talk about this definition right here, crepuscular. Crepuscular is when a primate is active during the dawn hours and during the dusk hours. So when the sun is just rising and when it's just setting. So right now we have three moments of activity. We have diurnal, where a primate is active during the day. We have nocturnal, where they're active during the night. And we have crepuscular, where they're active during the dawn hours and during the dusk hours. All right, let's talk about ruffed lemurs. Again, I talk about ruffed lemurs because I want you to see this cute little guy practice this definition right here, infant parking. What is infant parking? Well, it's when a primate will hide its offspring, park it basically in a tree while it goes and forages for food and then come back for it. They also practice arboreal quadrupedalism, which means getting around on all four legs really efficiently in the trees. All right, before we move on, let's talk about the aye-aye. And the reason I bring up the aye-aye is because aye-aye is one of those interesting primates where we see taboos against it within the culture of Madagascar. Seeing an aye-aye is thought to be bad luck. Therefore, every time aye-ayes are spotted, they're killed. This is one of the reasons why humans are helping with the extinction of primates. And this is one of the charges of anthropology, to be able to help with these cultural taboos to be able to help with primate conservation. All right, let's look at haplorhines. So we were talking about strepsirrhines right here. We're going to hop over to this suborder of haplorhines. Haplorhines have no tapetum lucidum, they have no rhinarium, and they have a short snout. And they have a postorbital closure instead of postorbital bar. And are generally smarter. They have larger brain to body size ratios. Now, as far as haplorhines is concerned, we have two suborders. We have platyrrhines and catarrhines, New World primates and Old World primates. So let's go ahead and look at these. Before we do, in cladistic classification, we put tarsiers. Now, tarsiers are an interesting group where it's hard to classify them for a lot of people. Are they going to be strepsirrhines or haplorhines? Well, depending what type of classification you look at, depends on where we put them. They do not have a tapetum lucidum. They don't have a tooth comb, so it's favoring haplorhines. Now, they have a postorbital bar, but they also have a postorbital closure, so there's bony closure back here, but there's a little bit of space. And they have this ancestral trait indicative of strepsirrhines called a grooming claw. Now, in cladistic classification, which is what we're using in this for this lecture, they are classified as haplorhines. So if I ask you what tarsiers are classified as, your answer should be haplorhines. By ask you, I mean during an exam. All right, let's go ahead and move further down to platyrrhines. Platyrrhines have several distinguishing features. One, they have broad lateral facing nostrils. This is shown in your book. So if you were to pick your nose as a platyrrhine, you would have to come in from it sideways. They also have 3 premolars. And here you see a molar count. This is 2 incisors, 1 canine, 3 premolars, and 3 molars. This is important. This is an important anatomical feature we use to distinguish between platyrrhines and catarrhines. So here I want to point out the owl monkey. Again, kind of a cute little guy, little gal. And this is one of the only nocturnal monkeys. But it gets a little bit more complicated than that. They're not only nocturnal, they're what we call cathameral. Cathameral means that they're spontaneously active during the day, during the night, during the dawn, during the dusk. They don't really have a specific time where we can call them diurnal or nocturnal. They're a little bit more sporadic than that. Another definition I want you being aware of is frugivore. Owl monkeys mainly eat fruit, thus they are frugivores. All right, catarrhines. In catarrhines, we see narrow downward-facing nostrils. You are classified as a catarrhine. So picking your nose, you have to come at it from underneath. Also, the dentition is a little bit different. We have 2 incisors, 1 canine, and unlike platyrrhines with 3 premolars, we have 2 premolars and 3 molars. So we have this 2-1-2-3 dentition. All right, let's move on to cercopithecoids. Old World monkeys. Old World monkeys, distinguishing features, they all have ischial callosities, which is this pink little thing right on their butts. And all Old World monkeys have tails. I want to point out colobus monkeys, snub-nosed monkeys, and langlers in order to point out this word right here, alloparenting. A lot of monkeys practice alloparenting. What is alloparenting? It's when non-parental individuals within a group invest in raising the children. They have infant care. So what advantages does this provide for the group? Well, if there's other people in the group helping with raising the young, then the parents can have more young. So it decreases the interbirth interval, thereby increasing the amount of young, thereby increasing that group's fitness. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the apes. Now the apes, including us, anatomical features are that we do not have tails. We have a Y5 molar pattern, which means that on our molars we have these 5 cusps, and you can trace a Y in between them. So this is called a Y5 molar pattern. We also have generally larger brains than the rest, and this robust hallux or robust thumb. We get really very dexterous with our hands. And I want to finish up by bringing up lesser apes, gibbons, and siamangs, and to point out another definition called extrapair copulation. Now, extrapair copulation is found in monogamous or socially monogamous primates, non-human primates, and this is when, in a socially monogamous situation, one individual will go out and copulate with another individual outside of that group. Basically, it's a fancy way of saying cheating, and this is actually a reproductive strategy for a lot of females, where it can increase the variety in its children's DNA, also decrease the chances other males will try to go after that child if they suspect it might be their own. All right, this concludes our lectures on primates. This, coupled with your reading for this week, should provide you a good amount of insight when talking or knowing about primates.